Hey Mallards, it is Saturday and I'm here once again to talk about WandaVision. Today I'm going to talk about episode 4 and wow. I feel like every single episode that I watch has just become like the new best episode. Like episode 1 I was like, wow, this is great. And then episode 2 I was like, oh wow, this is better. And then episode 3 I was like, oh, look at how they're doing. Like this is really interesting. And like, oof, man, wow. They just went even further with this episode. So this episode in particular, episode 4, just completely flips the script, like quite literally, and it is everything that's happening on the outside that we got to glimpse at the end of episode 3, and I love it. Not just because it introduces characters that I adore, because I do love that part too, because it is super exciting to see all of these characters that I really like. And to sort of get a grasp, or at least a little bit more of an inkling of what's going on, in that I was already pretty sure that Wanda was creating this reality, but you can really see it now, and it's interesting to see the cracks and different things that are happening because she is attempting to essentially control an entire town and make them bend to her will. And this... The cool thing about this episode is that it takes the moments that we saw as glitches previously and sort of lets us see what happens in those glitches, lets us see how those glitches occur, and really shows us a different side. Reminds us all that Wanda Maximoff is scary, y'all. Like, she's super powerful and she is scary. You should be frightened. You should not get on her bad side, and I feel like the entirety of the MCU forgets this, so it's nice to see that highlighted. But obviously the number one thing we need to talk about is that Darcy Lewis is back. Full on is a doctor now, because she's got her doctorate. She's in astrophysics. She's figuring out absolutely everything, because we all know that she has always been one of the smartest people in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Not necessarily because she's book intelligent, because like, that's Tony or Bruce. Like, they're very intelligent, but they're not necessarily smart. And Darcy is smart, and she really proves it in this. She figures things out, she lays things out, she solves problems, and it's a beauty to see Kat Dennings. I'll never get tired of that. I've missed Darcy. I like that she's back here. I love her attitude, I love her sardonic wit, I love everything about her as a character, and I'm excited to see her expand and grow and see where she goes in this series. And I hope that because she's a part of this, that she will actually then be a part of other things to come. So we got to see everything from the outside and sort of how the outside world views, or in some cases doesn't view, the town of Westview, New Jersey, and what it is, like what about that town is going on, and all of the agencies coming together and learning a little bit more about S.W.O.R.D. And the other thing that I really enjoyed was watching people come back from the blip, which we saw sort of at the end of Endgame, and then also sort of in Spider-Man Far From Home, but not really. Not in the same way that we saw it here when people return from the blip. But also, wow. Seeing this makes me want to go back to that part where, can somebody tell me if Ned was also blipped? Like, he had to have been, right? We have to assume that in order for Spider-Man Far From Home to have occurred, that like Peter and all of his friends got blipped out of existence, which is how they all come back, and none of them are 5 years older than the others, right? It would have been weird if like MJ had suddenly been 5 years older, or like maybe there were people who were 5 years older and they're just not people we cared about. But it is really funny that like MJ and Ned and Peter and Flash, like, all got blipped out because they're all back. For, you know what, maybe now's not the time to think about that. But I have started to think about it, like, a lot because of watching this episode and how they treated time. And so then that really got me thinking about how does the blip work? How does the blip work? Somebody talked to me about the blip. They're gone for 5 years, and some people get older. Cassie Lang. And then Peter and Ned are hugging in, I guess that's at the beginning of Far From Home. I can't remember. Sort of blurs. But they're hugging, and, like, they haven't seen each other in an age, right? Except that if they just blipped, they wouldn't feel that way, because everybody else who's come back from the blip is just like, oh, I'm here. And, like, doesn't have a recollection that they've been missing, just, like, fell asleep and now has woken up. And so if they both disappeared, why are they hugging like that? And if only one of them vanished, why are they still in the same grade? Those are my questions, MCU. I would like you to answer them. Not at all what I came to talk about, but this is what happens when you start to think too much about a comic book film. Anyway, the story of the lovely and amazing Monica Rambeau opens up with her, like, coming back in the hospital, and it was really cool to see all of the people sort of, like, blip back into existence. But they tell her that her mom has died, and that's really sad. Like, she was gone for 5 years, and during those 5 years, her mom died of cancer, which is very sad and kind of heartbreaking, but it does, like, build the character in an interesting way. And then she goes to S.W.O.R.D., which you find out that's where she's worked this whole time, and that her mom started S.W.O.R.D., built it from the ground up to be, they call it sentient weapon observation research division. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. But it's sentient world in the comics, and it's weapon in this, which I thought was an interesting distinction that the MCU has decided to make. They also changed from department to division, but, like, that seems more like a change in language than a change in meaning, versus world and weapon seems like a change in meaning, which I find interesting. But her mom started it, and that's cool because that means that Peggy Carter built S.H.I.E.L.D. in the MCU, and that I cannot remember her name, but Monica Rambeau's mother built S.W.O.R.D. So these two organizations that are out there, like, saving the world, started by ladies. Like, I mean, MCU, you apparently can't give me a good, meaty movie about any of these people, which is unfortunate. I mean, Captain Marvel was good, and I really enjoyed it, but, like, come on. But you have created a mythos where women kind of rock, so I'll give you some props for that. And so this episode just shows us the other side and really gives you that sense of Wanda's power, which I enjoy. And I can't wait to see how the rest of this shakes down and if there are any other exciting surprise cameos. I have my fingers crossed for a few ideas, but we'll see what happens. I'm very excited for the next episode and the next one and the next one and the next one. And, like, whoo, man, I'm going to be sad when this series is over because so far it's so good. I like it so much. And if every episode just keeps getting better, like it's happened so far, it's going to, like, soar up the charts as far as things I enjoy from Marvel. So yeah, if you've seen episode 4, which I know some of you have, please let me know in the comments what you thought. Let's talk about women running the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And let's have a chat about the creepy, creepy dead version of Vision. Because that was terrifying. Like, absolutely perfect, but terrifying. I'll see you tomorrow.